Welcome to another FafNir guide. Today's guide is about Kashtira, and there will be a lot of explanation about this deck, so please bear with me. I put a timestamps in case you already knew what Kashtira is, but I suggest you to follow my explanation from the beginning because there are some ruling explanation as well in there. And since this archetype is not in full power yet, I'm gonna put this as part 1. And we gotta wait for the future packs to release the rest of Kashtira cards that make them whole as a one deck. Because it's not complete yet, a lot of people are combining it with a lot of different variants. Like Auroradin variant, which are typical turn 1 generic negate board, which I think Adamancipator can do better than them. And there's also a runic Kashtira, which I think they will even more stronger when another boss monster, a Risehheart, released into the game. There's also pure Kashtira, with the end board are usually both Unicorn and Fenrir and pass the turn, with 45% of the deck are consist of hand traps and Floodgate, so it's basically typical Floodgate deck like runic Floodgate. There's also Tearlament Kashtira, which I think it will be strong as well in the future when they released KSHATRI-LA. What a poor Kitkalos. There's a Punk Kashtira, because a lot of Synchro deck player love to add Kashtira as a free level 7 and Synchro with their main level 3 tuner to summon Barona de Fleur. And lastly, the variant that I used right now, Turbo Shangri-ira. I'm using the engine that Auroradin used, which is Armored Dragon and Dragon Ruler. The reason I choose this variant is because this guide is for beginner-friendly guide. And in my opinion, this variant is suited best for beginner who just started build this deck and to learn the basic play of Kashtira archetype. The one that highlighted are the core cards of Kashtira. You don't have them means the deck is not gonna work. And these are the engines that I used. Armed Dragon Ruler. If you want cheaper one without spending UR points, you can switch them with Danger and some more level 7 tech cards like Ascended of Thunder, Instant Contact, and PsiBeast. As you can see, the only hand traps we bring are Max C and Ash Blossom. For current meta, those hand traps are needed, but if you want cheaper hand traps, you can get one Nibiru, one Ash Blossom, and one Imperm from shop and craft 3 Droll and Lockbird. If you don't have enough SR point to craft evenly matched, you can craft Concealing Light instead. Do not underestimate this card. For Called by Grave, you can just switch them with Reinforcement and Raigeki. Those are free to obtain cards from solo mode. I'm going to explain the engine later, but first, let me introduce you to Kashtira. Kashtira are basically an Xyz-based deck that are in this current power. They can only turbo out level 7 monsters and rank 7 monster, with a great monster recovery in each turn. All of their main deck monsters are level 7, with an exception of Riseheart that are level 4. The current level 7 can special summon themselves, and it can be done multiple times as long as you don't control any monster on your field. What I mean with multiple times is this. The special summon is not once per turn, unlike Sprite monster that can only be special summoned the same way once per turn. All the current level 7 have a trigger effects to banish one card face down. Fenrir, banish any one face-up card on opponent's field. Unicorn, banish one card from opponent's extra deck. And while Ogre, excavate 5 cards from top of opponent's deck and banish one of them. All those effects also can be self-triggered by declaring an attack with that monster. This is the reason why Fenrir is limited to 2, because it has no restriction and can just free summon it and attack to remove a monster from the field. Fenrir is best suited for going second with any kind of decks in this game. Some heads up about Kashtira Ogre. Usually people tend to choose 5 cards to excavate and banish one of them. But what most people don't know, that the excavated cards will return in the same order and no shuffling, which means the only things matter is the card that have been shown first time, and that's the card that your opponent's gonna draw later. If that card is bothering you, better banish it, but then your opponents will know what card that they are going to draw next, so be careful. If you're wondering how do we know which card is, you can check the log on the right side here. The card on top are the first ones shown and going to be drawn by your opponent later, but sadly the cards on the selection HUD were listed randomly. If all 5 cards are different, then it should be fine. But then what about if there are 2 Max Cs in this kind of order? How do we know which one is the top most Max C card? So we will never know until Konami listen and fix this UI problem as soon as possible. Kashtira Shangri-ira, or I just gonna call it Shangri-la, our only Xyz monster in the game. If Shangri-la is on your field and an opponent's card was banished face down, you can block one zone on the field, except extra monster zone. The zone locking effect can also be triggered by your opponent's doing. But be careful when playing against fusion deck like Runic, Tears, and Branded, since they can fusion summon on that extra monster zone. The cool thing is, it's not once per turn nor per chain, which make number 89 Diablosis is the best pair with Shangri-la. Diablosis basically have three different effects that are all banishing face down. First, the ignition effect. You can banish one monster from opponent's extra deck face down. The second one is trigger effects, where you can banish one card from opponent's graveyard face down just after this card destroy a monster by battle during the end of battle phase. And the third effect is the one that makes this monster broken. Once after opponent's card banished face down, even from an effect other than this card's, it can banish cards on opponent's deck from the top cards with a total equal to the total of their current banished face down cards. So if your opponents have 4 cards banished face down, it will banish another 4. If your opponents have 18 cards banished face down, means it gonna banish another 18 from their deck, which is 90% cards of their deck is deleted. That's how insane it is, but if the total banished face down cards your opponents had exceed the total of opponent's deck, it won't trigger the effects. So count those numbers before you banished more, so you can take advantage of this effects to banish your whole opponent's deck. Since Diablosis can banish twice per its activation, it also allowing Shangri-la to zone locking twice. And of course, the more Shangri-la on your field, the more zone you can block in a single activation. That's why this number 89 Xyz monster going to be in a ban list sooner or later, just like what Konami did in OCG and TCG. All the banishing that we did with this deck will be all banished face down, just like what Small World did, means that card is gone forever. It's literally deleted from your deck. Only the owner can see what card it is if it's banished face down. Here's some little interaction that most people don't know about banish face down effect. If Fenrir target a monster that have a written text like banish it when it leaves the field, when it banish, it doesn't turn face down, so it won't trigger Shangri-la or even Diablosis effect. I don't know what's the reason behind this, but text itself is written without face down when leaving the field. Deck like Flu Wanders that most of them has that kind of written effects, don't bother about Kashtira's banish effect, it's actually benefit them. So yeah, Flu Wanders is one of the best counter against Kashtira. Kashtira Risehheart is the only level 4 monster in this archetype, it giving this deck a chance to normal summon a monster. Risehheart on the field can activate its effect by banishing any one Kashtira card from deck. After that you can banish 3 top cards from opponent's deck face down and turn Risehheart into a level 7 monster. For this current power, we would like to banish a Kashtira monster. And if we have Birth on the field, we can special summon that banished Kashtira to the field and extend our combo. Risehheart also able to special summon themselves if you control a Kashtira monster. But once it activate, you are locking yourself to only summon Xyz monster from extra deck. Speaking about Birth, currently Kashtira Birth is our only spell card. It has 3 different effects. The first effect, it can let you normal summon any level 7 monster without tributing. I repeat, any level 7. Your armed dragon, your dragon ruler, and even your level 7 kaiju can be normal summon without tributing as long as you haven't used your normal summon token yet. The second effect, you can special summon one non-Xyz Kashtira monster that are banished or in graveyard. The third effect, if you control a Kashtira monster, after your opponents activate a spell cards, you can target 3 cards on opponent's graveyard and banish them face down. It's really good against Branded deck. Just after Branded Fusion sending Albus to graveyard, before Lubellion or Albion using it to fusion summon, Birth can banish it face down, causing the Branded player even more serious headache playing their complicated deck. Kashtira Preparation, which also our only trap card, it has 2 effects on it. The first effect, almost the same like Birth, it can special summon Kashtira monster from Banish and Hand, but not from Graveyard. And it can also special summon the Xyz one, so you can resummon your Shangri-ira in case it got banished, but keep in mind it doesn't have any material to protect it. The second effect, it's also almost same like Birth. If you control a Kashtira, after your opponent activate a trap card, you can look at your opponent's hand and banish one card from it, face down. Remember, they are all banished face down, so it will trigger Shangri-ira and Diablosus effects. That's all for the KSHATRI-LA profile. We gonna jump to the combo section, and I'm going to explain the engine there. I'm not gonna do Danger Engine because of how RNG it is. But basically, if you activate Nessie and you discard other cards, you special summon Nessie and draw one. But if you discard Nessie instead, you can grab Jackalope, activate it, and you must discard Jackalope to special summon Nessie, or else you will summon Jackalope and draw one more cards. First, I'm gonna show Vanilla Kashtira combo, and then the Armed Dragon Ruler engine, and also some free level 7 monster tech as backup. Vanilla full combo, Unicorn plus Risehheart. If you have other level 7 tech monster on your hand, you must always special summon the level 7 Kashtira first. You can no longer free summon level 7 Kashtira if you control at least a monster on the field. Summon Unicorn. Add Birth. Special summon Risehheart and banish Fenrir. Activate Birth and summon that Fenrir to the field. Add Ogre. By using Birth effect, normal summon Ogre without tributing. Keep in mind it consumes your normal summon token, so if you normal summon other monster before, you are no longer be able perform this kind of summon anymore. Ogre add preparation. Xyz both Ogre and Risehheart into Shangri-ira because we have no use of them anymore, so we can let Shangri-ira to keep them as material. Only Fenrir and Unicorn is important for us now. And then Xyz summon Diablosus and activate its effect to banish one from opponent's extra deck. It will trigger Shangri-ira to block a zone, and also trigger Diablosus to banish cards from opponent's deck, which will trigger Shangri-ira again later. The rest of Vanilla combo is gonna makes you to choose between Xyz summoning Shangri-ira or Diablosus. If you want to focus on zone blocking, go for Shangri-ira. But the downside is, it's very easy to remove Shangri-ira. If you go for Diablosus, you can do both deleting 40% opponent's deck and delete one of their best extra deck monster, especially if you play against Tearlaments. Since KitKalos is limited one, banishing it will give you higher chance of winning against them. Risehheart plus Birth. As I said, Risehheart can give this deck a chance to normal summon in case shit happens. This is the best board you can do with that hand. Next turn you can choose either Fenrir or Unicorn. You can summon Diablosus instead and snipe those extra decks sooner, but your board is totally dead on opponent's turn, but this strat works great against Tearlaments, where you can just delete their one and only KitKalos before they summon her. Fenrir plus Birth. In here, you can choose to go for Shangri-ira or Diablosus. Both are doing great for end board. I also prefer to keep Unicorn instead of Fenrir because if Shangri-ira negated by Ash, Unicorn can activate its effect to banish their extra deck, while Fenrir can't trigger its effect because opponents hasn't control any cards yet. If you go with Diablosus instead, if they activate spell or monster effect, You can banish cards face down, and it's also triggering Diablosis to banish another 9 cards from opponent's deck next turn. Totally, you banish like 16 cards from opponent's deck, and 2 cards from extra deck, which means you already delete at least 40% of opponent's deck, which is insane. Riseheart plus Ogre. In my opinion, this hand is better than Risehheart plus Birth. This end board also the same like Fenrir plus Birth. You have a chance to delete 40% of opponent's deck next turn. Unicorn plus Ogre. You also end up with the same board, like before, but you won't get to banish 40% of opponent's deck since you don't get Risehheart. PsiBeast plus Unicorn. Almost full combo, but minus the preparation. PsiBeast plus Birth. This one you will end up with Fenrir instead of Unicorn, so you can choose either Shangri-ira or Diablosis, but I prefer Diablosis. PsiBeast plus Ogre. This one almost the same like Unicorn plus Ogre. You can choose either Shangri-ira or Diablosis. Unicorn plus Sacred Sword. This one is a bit non-linear because it depends on the 2 card that you draw. but at least you can recover your Banished Unicorn immediately. Fenrir plus Sacred. Slightly better than previous one, instead of searching Risehheart, you search Unicorn and special summon it. Those are the current basic pure Kashtira combo you can do in this current power. If you playing those Floodgate and Hand Traps KSHATRI-LA, you better focus on this basic combo, because you are not going to use any engine at all besides those free level 7 monsters like Instant Contact and Ascended of Thunder. Pile Armed plus either Armed Dragon level 3 or 5 or Lightning. Each Armed Dragon effect can only be used once per turn, so if the cards in hand is not level 5, then Pile Armed must send level 5 from deck. Level 5 will let you to add Tempest Dragon Ruler, and since you have 2 Wind Monster in the graveyard, you can banish them and special summon Tempest, and you get free 2 level 7 monster on the field. I remind you again, if you have any Kashtira on your hand, it's preferable to do Kashtira combo first before do this engine, or else your Kashtira can't special summon. Pile Armed plus Tempest. Same like before, you must send level 5 and add another Pile Armed. Since Tempest can also banish from hand, you can banish the added Pile Armed to special summon Tempest. Level 3 Armed Dragon plus 2 any monster. This one requires you to normal summon. Flash plus 2 any monster, same like before but doesn't require normal summon. With that, it concludes the combo section, and next I'm going to show you some combo sample using this engine. To show you the specialty of this engine. Combo sample 1. Combo Sample 2. Combo Sample 3. And if you manage to get 3 zone lock in your turn with this end board, here's what you can do to block the rest on opponent's turn. I call this 2 turns full block combo. Now I'm going to show you what a 1-turn full block combo look like. That's all the combo that I can share to you. Next is tips and tricks. Kashtira Shangri-ira. If you have multiple Shangri-ira and its effect triggered at the same time, and if your brain also slow just like mine, you don't want the same Shangri-ira to block the same zone, but how do we know if we already selecting that zone? If you hover your mouse onto the previous chained Shangri-ira with this kind of symbols of them, you can see an icon in the field zone. That means that zone has been selected by this card. If you are in mobile phone, you can just tap the Shangri-ira and it will reveal the icon. The zone blocking effects are lingering effects, so once it's active, the effect will stay as long as Shangri-ira presence on the field. If you don't know what lingering effects is, you can check this short videos, link in the timestamps. Big Eye. Big Eye is one of the best counter for mirror match. You can steal opponent's Shangri-ira and use it as your own, and you can also add another your own Shangri-ira to block your opponent's zone twice as much. One bad things about banishing face down. I did explain this before, but in case if someone miss it, here it is. If you banishing a card face down using Fenrir, if the targeted cards have a written effects, banish it when it leaves the field, it will banished face up instead, so be careful it will not trigger Diablosis, nor Shangri-ira effects if it's banished face up. That's why Flu Wanders is one of the best deck to counter Kashtira, as long as they still have Monster Zone to summon. Kashtira special summon effects. Their special summon effects is not once per turn. You can do it as many times with the same card as long as you control no monster. Ash Blossom. If you have a bad hand, you can summon a level 7 Kashtira and normal summon Ash Blossom and Synchro to Barona. Or if you dueling an Avermax that protected by Masquerena, you can summon Chengying instead. Since Kashtira attack will trigger their banishing, after it banish it will trigger Chengying effects, so you can untargetably banishing Avermax. Lava Golem. Since sometimes you don't need to normal summon, playing Lava Golem in your deck is really viable, especially when it activates its effect on opponent's field. It triggers all level 7 Kashtira banishing effects. Change of Heart. It's rising in popularity since it's now is limited to 2. It's great to use against a mirror match. You can steal your opponent's Kashtira monster and use their effects. Gradielle. This Xyz monster is a good cheap subs. If you still have enough extra deck slots, it can be used to suck opponent's monster from graveyard, good against Tearlaments. Dark Armed. This armed dragon Xyz monster can activate its effect as many as how much material it has. If you have 2, you can destroy 2 cards, but keep in mind, Dark Armed can only activate its effect if you have at least 1 card in your graveyard. Dracossack. It can tribute itself to destroy 1 card on the field, perfect against skill drain. Codebreaker Virus. This one is kinda generic. It's our best way to destroy Baguska, since Baguska defense is only 2000. Make sure to summon this before special summoning Riseheart, or else you will restricted to Xyz monsters only. Reinforcement. This card is act as your 4th Riseheart. If you only need 3 Riseheart, but you are short on UR points, you can just bring this card. This card is free from solo mode. That's all for the tips and tricks that I can give. I also leave a timestamps in description for easy navigating between section of the video. Thanks for watching. If you like it, please leave a like, subscribe and share it. I'll see you next time.